Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. I am so thankful that you are back with me for another episode 245 of the podcast. I am so grateful to have audiences and listeners that are thoughtful about, where you're choosing to put your time, meaning if you're listening to the Nora Speaks podcast, you've made a decision. You could be listening to something else right now, whether that consumption is, positive, uplifting, or just purely entertainment. And so because you made a choice to tune in to the Nora Speaks podcast, that tells me something about you. And if you are not a subscriber, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, and you can share it with others. Listen to this episode. Let me know if this is valuable to you. And I hope that it is, because it is the goal of the podcast to be a source of information, inspiration, novel and fresh ideas and approaches to mitigating some of the negative outcomes that we experience as a people. And so again, welcome to episode 245. And I had said in episode 243 that I would provide an explanation of my several-month hiatus from the show. So as promised, I will share some thoughts with the Nora Speak audience and be a bit transparent. Before and during the pause of the podcast, I had not shared with listeners that I and some others that I care a great deal about were being maligned in a very aggressive and offensive manner, publicly and in the press and on social media as well. Now, first, let me say, as a Muslim, my religion, my theology, this practice of Islam, it teaches me and others who practice Islam that we are never, ever to be the aggressor. However, we are commanded by God to fight with those who fight with you. Now, when someone is not physically assaulting you, then you and I must use discretion when that attack is verbal or it's written. And I should also say that Muslims are taught to always exercise the highest of intelligence at all times. And specifically, followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, of which I am, we are taught to think 5 times before we speak. So, therefore, in examination of the vitriol and the ignorance and nasty behavior of others, then there was an assessment that I needed to do. I recognize that it is instinctive that one wants to raise a defense or strike back. However, when that someone has important work ahead of them, they have to decide if they would expend their precious energy and attention on unremarkable individuals who are frankly creating an unremarkable nuisance that, 1, changes nothing about who you are, 2, changes nothing about who or what you value, and 3, changes nothing about who values you. So I decided there is discipline in silence. Now, about the instinctual urge that we have to raise a defense, this must be controlled. It must be controlled so that we are not distracted from the good that we do and the recipient of the good that we do. There are folks who depend on, community servants, servant leaders to perform their duty because it provides a meaningful impact in their lives. And so it would be unfair and a disservice to fall into what are really distractions, minor annoyances, and to take away from those who depend on the good work that you do. So again, an assessment must be made, and there is discipline in silence. So for me, instead of being reactive, I chose simply to stay busy, but also to stay quiet. As someone who labors gratefully, thankfully, in service to our people, even those of our people who find recreation in destruction, and there are too many, but even in service to those kinds of people who delight in being harmful, delight in gossip, delight in slander, even in service to them, I will never, ever hurt our people. I know and I recognize that our people are already hurt, and we have been hurt enough. So in an emotional, reactive moment, any of us can utter words that are hurtful and that not only deviate from our good character, but that can also harm other people. And so I believe that my role is to be a vessel of good, to be a vessel of good for our people, to be an example to our people, specifically our sisters, to our adult sisters, our young girls. I believe that my role is to be an example, not an example of perfection, but an example of a sister that's in evolution from what we've been made to be in this 400-year experiment of the remaking of the black man and woman in North America. And I'm not talking about a good remaking, obviously, from what history, has shown us. So I believe that my role is to be a vessel of good. I also believe that we have enough fools with pens, with microphones, and with social media channels who are destroying our people. And I, for one, will never contribute to that type of mayhem. First, because I respect my God and I respect myself. And secondly, because I respect our people. You are never going to find me feuding, fighting, arguing with people in public for the good of what I see simply as the Willie Lynch agenda and being an example of self-destruction for my people. We have far too many examples of folks with microphones, with folks with platforms, folks with, quote, followers, folks with notoriety or prestige. We have far too many examples of black women specifically as an example of their self-destruction for our people. So I'm not going to participate in that. And because there is discipline in silence, exercising discretion and intelligence guides my conduct. So in this phase of this experience, I can honestly admit that I'm so grateful for this opportunity to grow, this opportunity to expand my capacity, the opportunity to increase my love for my people. And I also recognize, and many of you who are in the work of serving our people, whether that's from the pulpit, whether that's standing in front of our people as educators, administrators, What you realize, I'm sure, and what I also realize is that it's the tests that come in life which opens us up to what type of material of which we are made. And the sling back is easy, the get back is easy, but the circumspect in every decision provides insight into the character that one has. So for me, I strive to seek the pleasure of God first and foremost. And for me, that is simply the greatest achievement. I recognize that everybody is not going to applaud for you. Everyone is not going to thank you for the good that you do, for the gift that you put in their own hands. That, the masses, the many, in spite of, how faithful you labor, how diligent you labor, how committed you are to service, the applause may not come. So I have learned to seek the pleasure of God first and foremost. And so to the Nora Speaks audience, I thank you. I thank this audience for enduring the interruption. And as I simply did not want to be a problem to my people, I want to be someone that brings solutions. When you listen to the opening of the Nora Speaks podcast, you hear that. I state the intention of this show. And because the atmosphere, I'll say, was saturated with such, vile, nasty, just terrifically disgusting behavior focused towards me and those I care about, I decided, Nora, just back up from the microphone because of the instinctual or reflexive reaction that we may have to defend ourselves. I could possibly say something that is uncharacteristic of me, is not in alignment with this podcast, is not in alignment with my beliefs. It's just, I've never been a confrontational person. And, some people that may be close to me, may handle things a different way, but I can only be me. And even when people are hurtful towards me, I just don't have it in me to hurt them back. I don't know if this is a great trait or a poor trait. I'm not really sure. So I'm so thankful that I do have people around me that love me and protect me. But I've just never been someone to strike back. And what I also recognize is that someone who is of service to her people, as I strive to be in this podcast and just in my life in general, if someone would go to the lengths to try to harm me, or try to harm my reputation or slander me, I recognize that that's a very broken person and they've been broken enough. And perhaps my own discipline, my own mercy, I suppose, my own restraint could possibly be a teaching, could be a nudge to them. Maybe not, but possibly. So on this podcast and in my general life, I want to bring solutions to our people. And that is what this microphone is for. Not for harming of my people, but always for the uttering of good and truth for our people. And that is all that you will ever receive from Nora Muhammad. In fact, I strive to be as the good woman is described in the book. In the scriptures, it says she will do good and not evil. She will assist those in need. She is of strength and honor. That is her clothing. And she speaks with wisdom and kindness. In short, she is a contributor and not a destroyer. So for me, if there is no good to be said, why speak at all? And so I chose to utilize the strength that it takes. And it does take strength to keep one's mouth closed. And this is something that, frankly, we should consider in all aspects of our lives. Sisters, if we're dealing with our husbands, right? It is not good to be emotionally reactive, or you could say something that could be striking and possibly irreparably harming. We should practice this with our children. Anyone who has raised children, taught children, coached children, for children can be frustrating. And sometimes we can exercise with very short fuses with our children, but we should exercise decorum, discretion, thoughtfulness, and patience in dealing with our children, in business, in work, at the grocery store. And most certainly, this is something that we should exercise on social media. We should be disciplined with our words, our actions, our expressions. It is not good to speak and act out of emotion. Be patient, be thoughtful, and show the best judgment at all times. This is better for us all. And I'll also add that what you may not know as the Nora Speaks audience is that each and every time I sit down and before I press record for each and every episode, I say a prayer that the words I say are guided and precise to be of service and do good and not harm. Not only is that something that is fundamental to this podcast, it's something that's fundamental to me. So again, I thank the Nora Speaks audience for enduring the interruption. We are back. I'm excited to continue bringing you great content. You heard the great guest in the last episode, Cindy McCoy, who's doing great things in her community. And these are the sorts of people that I strive to bring to the podcast, who want to do good, who have the intention to do good with an open heart, and who are, casting their rod in the waters of service. And those are the people that you will be hearing from on the podcast, and you will definitely be getting a new episode each and every week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Until next time, stay in peace.
We were brought here as a piece of property, and to keep that piece of property, it is to not allow the property to know the value of the property. What I mean by that, if you had known the history of yourself, you would not have been made a slave. And you won't be a slave now if you have a knowledge of yourself. It's hard to enslave a person that have equal knowledge with you. You just can't do it. And so this knowledge of yourself is the thing that will free you from what you have been suffering from.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, NoraMuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@noraspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.